simplify the information, make it easier to access.
It's not the clearest data for someone just to pick up and use. I think I kind of described it as a box of Legos before, that we know what those pieces are, but not everybody can see what those pieces are. And this data center would help bring that clarity to all that data.
The database would also make it easier to track the state's water, including what's flowing into the Great Salt Lake. The bill, though, still needs approval from the full legislature and the governor. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Passengers on an American Airlines plane jumped into action Tuesday when a man allegedly tried to open an emergency exit door. ABC's Alex Stone reports.
The American Airlines Boeing 737 was climbing out of Albuquerque when passengers say a man began saying he had to get off the plane, pulled the cover off an emergency exit handle, and began trying to get out. Zach Etkind says passengers jumped into action and tackled the man.
Rip him off the door, which he was trying to open.
Passengers say he opened it enough. There was a whistling sound coming from the door. They duct taped the man's legs and put his hands in flex cuffs. The plane made an emergency landing back in Albuquerque where he was arrested. Alex Stone, ABC News.
And your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average and the NASDAQ both down today, with the S&P also moving downward. And our KSL weather drying in the next day or two before we get into another storm for the weekend. That's next. KSL News Time 102.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. If you're a dad who is facing divorce, there are extra layers of stress that may include stereotypes and assumptions. No two situations are the same. Our legal experience and dedication prepare us for whatever legal challenges we face together. You need a partner you can count on. For more than 30 years, Cordell & Cordell has represented men in divorce.
Offices in Midvale and Clearfield. 1412 South Legend Hills Drive, Suite 200, Clearfield, Utah, 84015. Online at CordellCordell.com.
Put your phone on D&D. That means that do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always sing with me. So put your phone on D&D. That means that do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always remember this beat.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Okay, that's good. Whoa, Dave!
Sorry, I'll go grab some paper towels.
You can't let Dave pour things. He works at JCW's. They fill stuff up past the brim over there, like their milkshakes. They're thick, rich, and oh my gosh.
Delicious?
Oh no, Dave's filling up Crystal's car for her.
Dave, stop!
Hey, this is Clark for JCW. Stop into any of our 5 locations today. We're located in American Fork, Thanksgiving Point, Provo, South Jordan, and our new location in Harriman. Come in and see why at JCW's we believe in quality and a lot of it.
As the new year begins, you and your credit card might be ready for a quiet break. Experience the relief of a low rate with the Mountain America credit card. With a 3% cash bonus on balance transfers, it's more relaxing than ever. Open a Mountain America credit card today for your limited time bonus. Details at macu.com/transfer. Loans and approved credit. Membership required based on eligibility. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.
How much is your health worth? I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I thought about it a few years ago before I lost the weight with Soda Weight Loss. And I thought, man, if I just lose some weight, that would help with so many other things. Because my doctor had talked to me about how instead of taking a pill for cholesterol and everything else, why not try to lose weight? Well, I did. I finally did with Soda Weight Loss. They made it easy to lose weight and to address my health issues. I feel so much better. I feel healthier, and I can do so much more. And I'm not the only one. Here, for example, this is John.
Well, my diabetes A1C was 5.89, 6 point something. And when I went back, I was at 4.9. Joint mobility is so much better.
There is no part of your health that's not going to improve when you lose weight. Soda will get you there. And here's the best part, keep you there for the rest of your life. Go to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is state of the art.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon Here's Ricky Meese.
Wet roads and a crash that remains in South Salt Lake, northbound I-15 after 33rd South. It's out of traffic on the shoulder. Tired of being a doorman for your furry friends? Say hello to Utah's own Pet Door products. Their pet doors are energy efficient, weatherproof, and secure. Visit www.petdoorproducts.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather. Showers continue through the day today. Will dry out toward the weekend, then look for more rain and possibly snow early next week. Right now, 43 degrees and cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
It's getting harder and harder to think about those who represent us in government without also remembering the way the institutions that they belong to, what they have become. Far too many of the institutions of government have simply become platforms for politicians, for their own gain, for their own popularity, and that's all undermining trust in America. The question is, can we change the game and dynamic, and what happens if we can't? Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
We have talked about the deficit of trust in the institutions of government. We've talked about the deficit of trust that we are facing with a lot of our elected officials, and we want to get under the headlines of a lot of that. It's easy to shrug shoulders and point fingers and place blame and say, oh, it's because this party's doing that or that politician is doing that. But there's much more to it that we have to get to if we're ever going to solve the problem, change the trajectory, which I think is crucial to the future of the country. You've heard me say this before. We have stress tested the United States of America in all kinds of incredibly difficult circumstances. We've done it through pandemics. We've done it through world wars. We've done it in the face of economic collapse. But the one thing we have not done in this country is we have not stress tested this nation in the absence of trust, particularly trust in institutions, let alone trust in each other. And both of those are waning. And that's disturbing. And that's something we've got to get to the bottom of so we can figure out how to get our way out of it. And it may be one of those, like when you're sinking in the water, you may have to hit bottom so you have something to push against to get back to the surface. And I know a lot of us are feeling that way, that we've been underwater, we're gasping for air, but we've got to find a place to push off from. And all of the latest polling, all of the latest indicators, when you really talk to the American people, is this trust deficit continues to mount. And there's a couple of levels of it that I think are really interesting. One of the things that we have noticed and have noted on this program before, based on some research from RMG, is that this lack of trust in government has continued to grow really since 1972. You can go back that far. And really the growth of the administrative state has sort of been in parallel with that growing distrust. There were actually only a couple of periods since 1972 where you've actually seen that trust gap change. And should not be surprising that the two times that there was a change and an increase in trust in government and government institutions occurred during the Reagan years and during the Bill Clinton years. Obviously, Ronald Reagan was famous for the line that made everybody chuckle and be a little nervous as well, that the most feared words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." And that sparked an era where things started to change. And because of that, public opinion and trust in government also changed. When Bill Clinton declared that the era of big government was over, it also sparked a change in public perception and trust in government. Since then, of course, we've seen nothing but an expansion of government, and we've also seen the expansion of performative politics in the social media age that has undermined our confidence and trust not only in the institutions, but in those who occupy the seats inside of those institutions. Now, all is not lost, of course. One of the most interesting things to me is that while trust in a lot of the big institutions has been waning. Trust in local government has maintained a pretty high level. In fact, most Americans, 67% of Americans, trust local government to handle local problems. It's when you get to that federal level, the further you get away from the people and the accountability factor, the lower the trust level. That makes sense. But we're also seeing great erosion in some of the important institutions in our federal government. Of course, Congress has been wildly unpopular for quite some time now, and the favorability, the positive view of those in elected office has gone down. In fact, only 6% of voters, according to an RMG poll done just earlier this year, only 6% have a highly favorable opinion of members of Congress. 6%. I think that is lower than cancer, pneumonia, and the COVID-19 virus. That is very low on the popularity scale. Nobody has a favorable view. The more disturbing thing to me is we're starting to lose confidence in places where we used to have very high levels of trust, like the Supreme Court. As the Supreme Court continues to be weaponized and politicized, mostly because Congress continues to abdicate its authority to the executive branch. The executive branch is all too happy to take that power and use it and do things by rule from an agency or by executive order from the president, doesn't matter what party. And then somebody files a lawsuit. And then it works its way through the court and it ultimately ends up in the Supreme Court. So nobody should be surprised in any way, shape, or form that the appointment of people to the Supreme Court has become so weaponized and so politicized. Because everything's ending up in the courts because Congress continues to abdicate its authority and not do its job. And the executive branch continues to overreach and do more than is actually its job. And so then people file lawsuits and they think the way you get things done is not to take on Washington or not to embrace or engage with your representative, but to file a lawsuit. And all of that just undermines trust. And it leads us to the most dangerous space of all. And that is that we've not only lost trust in the institutions of government, we've lost trust in each other. That's the most worrisome thing to me. For years and years, decades, if you were asked the question, do you trust your neighbor? That was a 80% plus respondent every single time. Everybody trusted their neighbor. Everybody knew their neighbor. And now the number of people in America who trust their neighbor is in the low 20s. And for young people, it's in the teens. And so that's the real test for us. If we're going to build this thing back out, I guarantee you it's not going to happen with an executive order or an act of Congress. It's going to require an act of courage and an act of engagement from you and me, with our neighbors, then our neighborhood, then our community, then our state, and that's how you build trust. Trust is done one relationship, not one transaction, one relationship at a time is how you build trust. And the fact that we continue to lose that is, to me, one of the most troubling parts of what's going on and not going on in our country. If we do not put trust first in this country, we are not going to have a country that will actually last.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-530-9353. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-530-9353. That's 800-530-9353. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
What does a trip to the grocery store cost these days?
You cannot overlook what groceries are costing us.
Maybe it's a price gouge, I don't know.
Utah lawmakers are working on a bill to shift taxes around and change the taxes on food.
It feels good. It doesn't actually do any good.
I think it goes a long way to helping a lot of Utahns.
Does it make a difference? Who wins and who loses? Listen this Thursday, the food tax debate, 9 to noon with David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Asante came to TurboTax after graduating from culinary school and landing a job in the hottest kitchen in town.
My hands are full all day, every day. I love it.
Asante, as your TurboTax expert, I'll make your moves count, guaranteeing 100% accurate filing and your maximum refund. Sound good?
Yes, expert!
Switch to Intuit TurboTax and make your moves count. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Experts only available with TurboTax Live.
If you only have a 401k, you're not getting the most for retirement.
Wait, what?
Add a Robinhood IRA on top, then they'll boost it by 3%.
You can do that?
And if you transfer in any retirement account, you get 3% on top of that.
Is there a limit to the match?
No limit. Robinhood Gold gets you the biggest contribution match of any IRA on the market. Sign up for Robinhood Gold at Robinhood.com/boost by April 30th. Subscription fees apply.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires gold for 1 year from first match. Must keep IRA for 5 years. Match on transfers subject to additional terms and conditions. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC.
Right now at Staples, you can print like a pro and save like a boss. Introducing the new HP OfficeJet Pro all-in-one printers. Professional HP quality, blazing HP speeds. Perfect for printing color presentations, flyers, brochures, and more at the home office or the office. And now at Staples, HP OfficeJet Pro printers are up to $90 off. So you can print and save like a pro. For the best deals on America's most trusted printer brand, HP, shop Staples today. Ends 3/2. Offer good in-store and online.
Psst. Hey, Mark, remember, getting help from Progressive is so easy. You can use the mobile app, chat with us online, or call us.
And you pick now to tell me.
I couldn't miss Little Grace's ballet recital. Oh, thanks for inviting me, by the way.
Did I?
Because you know I'm always here for you.
Yeah. I can use the mobile app if I need help. Sorry, you're in my wife's seat, though?
Oh, yeah, I gotta go anyway. Tell Grace she nailed her chassé.
Get the help you need from Progressive with our mobile app, online chat, or over the phone. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. Listen, we're fiduciaries. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. Now, imagine how that would be if you could actually retire 3 to 5 years sooner than your plan was. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan, taking into consideration any rental properties that you have, any pension income that you have, your Social Security. Listen, we put that all together for you in writing. It will allow us to build your income based on inflation. You know, inflation has been rapidly rising. You and I both need a plan that whatever we start out our income at, in 5 or 10 years, we're going to need 40% more income. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Mr. Max buy one get one sale. Buy one suit for $299. Get the second for $100. Any style, any occasion. Free alterations in 9 locations. Mr. Mac.
Tim and Amanda.
Do I look forward to reporting the news? Yes, insofar as it helps me understand what's happening.
We know that it's important information that's going to impact people's lives, and so that makes the job of reporting the news that day easier.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the legislature is looking at a system that would track water flow everywhere across the state, especially what's coming into the Great Salt Lake. Second, Real Salt Lake takes on the world's best soccer player tonight in Miami. And third, a plane load of people flying out of Albuquerque weren't about to let a man open the emergency door in flight. Right now, 43 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson, and we started the program today talking about trust. Trust in the institutions of government, which are very low. trust in those that occupy the seats inside those institutions is also incredibly low. And whether it's the Supreme Court, Congress, the executive branch, there's not a lot of trust. And often what happens with that lack of trust is we end up with a lot of fake fights and false choices when it comes to dealing with real serious issues. So as always, as we like to do on this program, we're going to get past the headlines and the talking points and have a different kind of conversation about a real important issue, Social Security. Everyone knows that funds are winding down, and you can talk about the demographic changes. You can talk about all of those things that are impacting that. But there's a simple reality, and that is that if nothing changes, everything will change to those who need it the most. And there are ways and there are paths to do it differently if we're willing to engage in a different kind of conversations. Well, Andrew Biggs is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. He studies Social Security reform, state and local government pensions, and public sector pay and benefits. And Andrew, welcome to the show, and it's great to have you on, and it's great to have someone looking at this in a way that we can deal with Social Security. Nobody wants to have the hard conversation or the real conversation, but when you actually engage in the real conversation, there are actually some pretty good paths forward.
Well, thanks for having me today, Boyd. I'm really happy to be with you. And yeah, it's a lot of what it comes down to with fixing Social Security is coming to a common set of facts. What I've discovered over essentially a career of working on Social Security reform is that a lot of the things that people think about Social Security aren't true. And if you give people a common set of facts about how the program works, then they'll compromise a bit more and come together a little bit more on solutions. The easy solutions of, well, some Congress stole the money or some freeloaders are taking it, that stuff's not true. But once we eliminate that stuff, then we can get back to the tougher choices that we need to make.
Yeah, and I love your approach to all of this because you get to the facts, you get to the actual dollars and cents of it based on a set of principles. And so walk us through some of that just from a practical, tactical someone who's looking to retire this year and the next little bit. What does that look like, and what kind of changes do we actually need to be deploying?
Well, Social Security benefits are safe for now. The trust fund will run out sometime in the early 2030s. The CBO says 2033. Social Security says 2034. So it's give or take there. When that happens, your benefits won't be cut to zero, but they would be cut by around 1/4. Now, that will be a real problem for retirees, for disabled, for survivors. A lot of people really depend on this. At the same time, though, there are solutions that we can come to that I think can keep that safety net and improve the safety net from Social Security without having to have dramatic increases in taxes. I mean, to fix Social Security without reducing benefits, that means essentially the largest tax increase in history. And it leaves no money to fix Medicare, to do all the other things that we might want to do. So I think there's some real opportunities when people start to understand how Social Security works, how much it's actually paying out to people, which in a lot of cases a lot more than you think. Yeah. And then when you do that, we can come to some agreements that I think are pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and so let's walk through some of that. Take us through some of those numbers. I think it's important for people to kind of wrap their heads around this a little bit in terms of what do the dollars and cents really look like? Because as you said, once you know the reality, then you can have a different kind of conversation.
Sure. I wrote a piece this week in National Review Online where I ran through some of the numbers of what people are getting from Social Security. And I spent a long time working at the Social Security Administration. I worked in the Bush White House on Social Security. So I know these numbers pretty well. A lot of people think Social Security just pays you a poverty level of benefit, that it's just a safety net. If you had two middle-income workers retiring this year at the full retirement age, they would receive over $59,000 in annual benefits. That's twice the poverty threshold before they touch even a penny of their own savings. If you have two people who are what are called maximum wage workers, who are making about $168,000 a year, they would retire on $96,000 in benefits. Now, in a sense, we could actually afford to pay those benefit levels. The problem is with Social Security, those benefit levels are projected to rise. The current law was just going to increase them. So by 2050, a middle-income couple will be looking at $76,000 in benefits. That's in inflation-adjusted dollars. It's just more than you need in order to have a decent safety net for people. And it's also much more than what Social Security programs in other countries pay. I mean, just as an example, in Canada, the maximum benefit that a couple can get is about $30,000 a year. Here, the maximum benefit is $96,000 a year. Now, Canadian seniors are not starving. They're doing just fine. If you reduce benefits gradually for high-income seniors, they'll save more over the course of their careers. Economics is very clear on that. So we're doing a lot of things we really don't need to be doing. We're paying a lot of money to people who don't need to be paying it to. And I'm not saying we, pull the rug out from people and make sudden cuts. People depend on this. They paid into it and they count on it. But for the long term, paying ever-increasing benefits to people who are literally the richest retirees in the history of the world, it's just not something we need to be doing.
Yeah. And I love the fact that just kind of takes everything out of it in terms of the left, right. And, man, I remember it was just a year ago that, the President Biden was standing there in the well of the House of Representatives delivering the State of the Union and getting everybody to chant and cheer about not touching Social Security. And while that's a great populist moment for all, magical TV, I guess, but it's also magic thinking in terms of what is actually going to come. As you mentioned, by 2033 or 2034, those things are going to be cut by default. And again, probably going to hurt the poor and the most vulnerable the most. And we got to have that different conversation. So just in our last minute or so here, give us how should we be talking about this as citizens, and how should we be talking about it with our representatives?
Well, the way I think about it is, Social Security should provide a safety net against poverty and old age. Currently, it's actually not a particularly good one. We could make that better. But Social Security can protect the people who need it the most while still living within its means. And if we look at how other countries that are similar to us run their Social Security programs, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, they don't do what we're doing. They focus their money on the people who need it the most. That reduces benefits for rich people. It also reduces taxes for rich people. If you're in the United States, the maximum tax you can pay on Social Security is 3 times higher than the maximum tax a high-income person would pay in Canada. So there's just no reason for a lot of what we do. We need to focus Social Security not on just continuing the current system without thinking about it, but focus it on what we want it to accomplish, which is protecting low-income retirees, protecting the disabled, protecting survivors. Doing that is cheap. Paying $96,000 a year to high-income people, that's expensive. Yeah. So we just need to focus on what we want the program to do.
Love that. This is exactly why we do this show. And, Andrew, this is exactly why we have you on this show. Andrew Biggs is Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. And this is the conversation you won't hear about Social Security just about anywhere else, because it's too easy to make it a political wedge issue or to weaponize it for some kind of populist movement or class warfare, whatever you want to call it. But this is the crucial conversation. It's all about what do we want the desired result to be for this program, and we can actually get it done and protect those who need it the most and make it work for everybody and for the long haul. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us today. Great insight, and we look forward to having you back.
Hey, thanks, bud.
All right, that's Andrew Biggs, Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. That's important stuff. Again, you're not hearing that anywhere else when it comes to Social Security. You're going to hear left and right say, they don't care. They're just going to push grandma off the cliff because that's nice political soundbite. It's a great bumper sticker for a political campaign. It's a great way to raise campaign cash and scare people about one side of the aisle or the other. But the reality is if nothing changes for those who need Social Security the most, everything will change within 10 years. But we can do it. And there's no reason we need to be doing these high payouts to people who don't need it. So you could actually give them less, and then you could actually have them pay less in taxes as a result. It sounds like a win-win. It sounds like practical tactical to me. I think we ought to give it a try. I think it will actually work. All right, we'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. Headquarters of a major fraud ring was broken up by police in Sandy. Sergeant Greg Moffitt tells KSL-TV they recovered drugs, IDs, and tax documents.
Identified nearly 200 victims of fraud, forgery, identity theft, vehicle burglaries. We feel that that's actually a win on our end to kind of just, for a lack of better terms, nip it in the bud.
The fraud operation stretched into rural counties in eastern and central Utah. Utah Jazz will see some familiar faces at the Delta Center for tomorrow's game against the Charlotte Hornets. KSL Sports says the Jazz will welcome back Carlos Boozer, Darren Williams, Mehmet Okur, and Andrei Kirilenko as they celebrate some of the team's best players of the 2000s. Tip-off tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A new report examines the effect that the transition to electric vehicles could have on American children. ABC's Mike Dubusky reports.
The American Lung Association finds that if the passenger car market moves to selling zero-emissions vehicles by 2035, the resulting environmental impact could lead to significantly fewer asthma attacks in kids, 2.7 million fewer cases by 2050 to be precise, as well as nearly 150,000 fewer cases of acute pediatric bronchitis.
Electric vehicles now account for about 7% of the new car market. Sales, though, have slowed in recent months. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average and the NASDAQ both trending down this afternoon. And we'll see these storms that we've had over the last day or so taper off in the next day or so. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Guys, did you know your testosterone affects everything in your system, including how you feel and perform every day? Right now, Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City will check your testosterone for free. Knowing your T levels is the first step in understanding if you have low T. Your testosterone level impacts your energy, libido, sleep, weight, hair loss, mood, and even ED. Maintaining an appropriate T level can change your whole life. Most men start to see changes in their hormone levels in their 30s. Experience and results matter. So what are you waiting for? Get your T levels checked today by local, experienced, and trusted men's health experts. They've helped thousands of men since 2011. They're so confident they can help you, they even guarantee it. Call Revive today and schedule your free testosterone test, free exam, and free consultation. Call Revive Men's Health at 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
And now another no-brainer money-saving tip from Progressive.
Marcus, what happened?
I was changing my oil and I spilled some on the floor.
Oh, well, use these $50 bills to wipe it up.
Perfect. Got any more?
Yeah, take a couple hundred.
Stop. Instead of using money, use an old rag. And here's a better tip from Progressive on how not to waste money. Don't pay too much for car insurance. Drivers who switch and save could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Ew. Gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors. It helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
Grab your family and some gear and head to the 2024 Skijoring the Bear exhibition in Garden City on Friday, February 23rd. Bring your skis and join the race or attend as a spectator to watch horses pull skiers through a course with jumps. Race divisions include Open, Novice, and Rookie, with buckles and cash prizes for the division winners. Everyone can enjoy food trucks, vendors, and more. Skijoring the Bear in Garden City, just west of Heritage Park. Helmets are required for skijoring, and you need to bring your own skis. Kids 10 to 12 are free. Great lodging deals can be found at bearlake.org. Attend this exhibition event on Friday, February 23rd to see or experience the excitement of skijoring. Visit skijoringthebear.com for more information. skijoringthebear.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a crash in Davis County, southbound I-15 near Hillfield Road in Layton, blocking a right lane of traffic and causing delays. Imagine pop, rock, and jazz hits with the full power of the Utah Symphony. Get your tickets at utahsymphony.org/pops. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, showers continuing through the day, then drying out toward the weekend. We'll look for more rain and possibly snow early next week. And right now, 42 degrees and cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Last week, before Congress decided to recess for a couple of weeks, the Senate passed a bipartisan bill to fund more military aid to Ukraine and Israel, also funding for humanitarian efforts in Gaza and bolstering our military near Taiwan. And since its passing, President Biden, along with Senate leadership from both sides of the aisle, have put pressure on Speaker of the House Mike Johnson to take up the bill and have a vote. As of now, of course, the bill remains stalled. And much of that coming as there are threats to Speaker Johnson holding on to the gavel, the speakership. Interesting as this moves forward and as pressure continues to mount and calls for help from Ukraine and from European allies continues to mount, there's an interesting space and an interesting person who's maybe offering a lifeline to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson to ensure that he would not only be able to bring the bill up, but also maintain his job as Speaker of the House. Michael Snell is a staff writer for The Hill, covering the latest news coming out of Congress. And Michael, great piece in The Hill today, talking about a Democrat trying to protect Speaker Johnson in exchange for a vote on Ukraine aid. Give us the backstory.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. So the Democrat moderate that we're talking about here is Congressman Josh Gottheimer. He's a Democrat from New Jersey. And essentially what he has here is a proposal to change the rules, the House rules, for motion to vacate to increase the threshold needed to force a vote on ousting the Speaker, increasing that from one member, which it currently is, to essentially a sense of the conference or caucus. It would need at least a majority support from the conference or caucus or backing from leadership of the conference or caucus. So Gottheimer is proposing that rules change, but if and only if, and this is the key part, if Johnson agrees to hold a vote on the Senate foreign aid package, which passed last week with wide bipartisan support, 70 members voting in support there, or putting a foreign aid package that is similar to that Senate aid bill on the floor for a vote. Now, as you laid out in the introduction, foreign aid, particularly Ukraine aid, has been a really thorny issue for Speaker Johnson as a growing number of Republicans become opposed to additional aid for Kyiv, as we see some conservatives, specifically Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, warn Johnson that she will trigger a vote on ousting him if he puts Ukraine aid on the floor. So this is one escape hatch from Gottheimer, whether or not it's something Johnson would agree to, A, and B, whether or not it's something that could get enough support in the House to make that rules change. That remains to be seen. But look, it just shows the increased pressure that lawmakers are feeling to pass this foreign aid.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating. And just for our listeners who will recall the drama and maybe the trauma of what took place last year in the House of Representatives, as you have this ability under the current rules in the House, again, these are Republican rules that were established, that any single member could file that petition to vacate the chair. In other words, call that vote on whether the Speaker should remain the Speaker. And, of course, that began the ouster of the former Speaker, and then weeks of drama to actually get to Speaker Johnson. So that's an interesting thing in terms of this would, I think, if I'm right, Michael, I think you pointed this out in your piece, that this would actually take the rules back to the way they were under former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it used to be like this under the Pelosi era. And then if you remember from back in last January, conservatives were extremely adamant that if they were to give their support to Kevin McCarthy for Speaker, he would have to bring the threshold down for motion to vacate to just one member. Now, initially it was half of the conference. Then McCarthy, to give in to those pleas, decreased it to just 5 members. That was still not enough to appease most of those conservatives. So he brought that threshold down to 1, and that ultimately allowed him to clinch the gavel after 15 ballots in January. But it also led to his demise in October after Congressman Matt Gaetz used that single-member motion to vacate to trigger a vote on ousting McCarthy. He was then joined by 7 other Republicans and all Democrats in ousting the Speaker, leading to the first ever successful motion to vacate. And, of course, you mentioned that trauma, that 3 weeks of chaos in the House where there was no Speaker and Republicans struggled to coalesce around a new leader. So now Gottheimer is looking to, in a sign of good faith, propose this resolution to increase the threshold for a motion to vacate. But again, he's only going to do that if he gets a vote on this foreign aid package. And as laid out before, that's a really tricky question that's been facing Johnson all speakership.
Yeah, no question about that. And as you look at Gottheimer's resolution, clearly he's a moderate Democrat. Does he have, or do you sense that he has the backing of the majority of his own party there in the House? Obviously, it's a very narrowly divided House right now. How are the rest of the House Democrats responding to this proposal to say, hey, we'll protect the speakership as long as we can get a vote on this aid package?
Yeah, that's the key question here, and we still don't have a sense of how others feel about this. There has not been much reporting on this resolution other from a few outlets, and there hasn't been much commentary about it from lawmakers. The expectation is that Democrats would follow the lead of Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, which has been the case for previous big decisions, which we saw on whether it be funding bills, whether it be that October motion to vacate against McCarthy. Jeffries has really made the decision here and has had the full support of his caucus. So if this resolution were to come to the floor for a vote, the expectation is that Jeffries would make a decision with his leadership team and that members of the caucus would then follow suit.
Fascinating stuff. Intrigue, as always. Michael Schnell is the staff writer for The Hill, covering the latest news coming out of Congress. You can also see Michael on News Nation from time to time. We enjoy that commentary as well. Michael, thanks so much for joining us. Great perspective.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, again, that's Michael Schnell, staff writer for The Hill, and a really interesting piece. Imagine that, if you will, that you would have Democrats protecting the Republican Speaker of the House from being ousted. That's a think again moment, I think, on a day like today. But it could happen. It'll be interesting to see how this progresses. Again, this is coming from a moderate Democrat. Will the rest of the Democrats be on board with that as a strategy? I think as the pressure continues to mount, especially following the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, I think the pressure for that aid to Ukraine in particular is going to continue to mount. And so what will happen there? Will Speaker Johnson put the package that was passed by the Senate on the floor as is? Will Speaker Johnson try to break it apart and maybe put on just the Ukraine aid package, or just Israel, or just that for Gaza, and have separate votes for each of those? That could be an interesting path to actually getting something done as well. So all of those are things that we're going to continue to watch and play. Of course, it's not happening in our nation's capital today because they are on recess. They are not in town. Since the Senate passed the bill, everybody has vacated, not the chair, but vacated the building and gone back to their districts. And so when they get back in session, this is going to be a big front and center issue. And the question will be, what does Speaker Johnson do? We'll continue to track it and watch it. We'll step aside for a quick break. More Inside Sources coming up next. Stick around.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Do you ever feel like getting your supplies for your CPAP is just a huge headache? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. We'll say goodbye to the hassle and hello to a stress-free life with our CPAP resupply service. Signing up is a breeze. Just place a call, choose your products, and leave the insurance billing and shipping to us. Our discreet packaging prioritizes your privacy, and we always ensure an on-time delivery. No more trips to the store or worrying about running out of important supplies. We get how crucial your CPAP therapy is, so don't let the stress of keeping up with it affect your sleep and health. Join Alpine Resupply today and enjoy a tranquil night's sleep with all your CPAP essentials. Visit us at alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
That's alpinehomemedical.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from the station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
Senate Bill 210 is a medical emergency at the Utah legislature. Ophthalmologists and optometrists are not the same. Optometrists don't complete medical school, no hospital internship, and no surgical residency. Ophthalmologists are medical doctors with years of surgical training on real patients. Now, optometrists want to perform surgery using lasers on the only eyes you'll ever have. Optometrists are not medical doctors, yet they want Senate Bill 210 to suddenly make them surgeons. Does that make sense to you? Your state legislator can help stop this nonsense by voting no. It takes years of training to make a surgeon. No bill can ever change that. Your legislator can help stop this nonsense. Tell your legislator to keep Utah eyes safe.
Paid for by the Utah Ophthalmology Society.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
I just elevated my checking account with Utah Community Credit Union. Tim, I am so blown away at what I get with my elevated checking account at UCCU. I get so many benefits. I get cell phone protection and roadside assistance. The one that blows me away the most is telehealth. I actually get zero copay telehealth with my checking account from UCCU.
Did you know you also get a 0.25% loan discount? It's one of the many things. And if you like to travel or you're on the road quite a bit, a free ATM nationwide, 30,000 ATM locations that you can use while you're out.
Utah basketball star Walker Kessler and Utah Community Credit Union have come together to announce this brand new elevated checking account with more benefits, more savings, more online protections than ever before.
Yeah, there's even something for dark web monitoring, which I have never heard of before, but you can find out more by just going to uccu.com.
And open an elevated checking account online or stop by any branch.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Dave and Dujanovic.
One person described it like this: I like having 1,000 one-minute conversations. So often we think we've got to dive in head first and know everything before we can speak on something. No, we can have a bunch of little conversations.
There's more than one opinion, and more than one opinion or viewpoint matters. I want our listeners to walk away from the show knowing that more than one opinion is valid.
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, Sandy police have broken up a major fraud ring. Second, some big names from past Utah Jazz teams coming back to the Delta Center. And third, with more and more electric cars on the road, they could make a significant impact on helping kids with respiratory illness. Right now, 42 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson, and one of the things that I love about this show is we get to bring on some of the greatest thinkers, the greatest writers, the greatest analysts in the country to have crucial conversations about things that really matter. And most important, we're never here to tell you what to think. We're here to present information so that you can think about what you think you know and maybe even think again. And one of the areas, of course, that has been very divisive in the nation, I think far more for political reasons than actual reality, is race politics. Our next guest is one of those great thinkers as we round out hour number one of the show. Has a new book out, The End of Race Politics, Arguments for a Colorblind America, by Coleman Hughes. And Coleman, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Great analysis, great insight in all of this. And for our listeners, I want to just set some context as we let you unpack some of this for us. You were one of the few black students in the philosophy program at Columbia University years ago, and you had this curious question. We love being radically curious on this show. You wondered why your peers seemed more pessimistic about the state of American race relations than your own grandparents who actually lived through segregation. Unpack that for us.
Yeah, so as a student at Columbia, I would read the student newspaper every day, and I would see people routinely say things like they experience racism and white supremacy every single day on campus. And that was strange to me because as a black student on campus, I felt I was in clearly one of the most progressive and non-racist environments in the country, if not on planet Earth. So that dissonance bothered me. And I became very curious why it was that students were so concerned about white supremacy in what was clearly one of the least racist places in the country.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people have struggled with, to say, well, wait a minute, it doesn't ring true, it doesn't resonate with me or my experience that's happening in my neighborhood or my area. And so as you dug into that, walk us through that. What did you find? What did you discover? And how can we start to reframe this conversation?
Well, what I discovered was that if you look at all the polling data, the majority of Americans, black, white, and Hispanic, all believed that race relations were good around 2013. And those numbers have been improving over the 2 decades prior to that. And something changed right around 2013 that led to a precipitous nosedive in race relations, where by 2021, basically half of Americans thought we were in a good place, as would have said that in 2013. And what happened, eventually everyone got smartphones, so we were able to see out of context video clips of arrests gone wrong and all kinds of content without any context that led people to think that racism was on the rise. And that's what gave people the false impression that race relations were getting worse when in fact they had been getting better for decades.
I think that's so fascinating, and it's one other area where this whole idea of instant certainty began, because you saw that clip or that out of context comment. That instant certainty undermines trust. It's a great threat to trust. And it's also, it undermines truth and what is actually going on, and prevents us from having the real conversations. And
Sorry, you cut out there for a second.
I was just saying that that this whole idea of the instant certainty is the enemy of truth, and it undermines trust, especially trust in each other. And so talk to us in terms of this idea of a different kind of color blindness. It's been another one of those things that's been weaponized, going back to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the content of your character. But now it seems like that's been distorted and actually has become more of a wedge than a uniting force in the country.
That's right. It used to be that, almost everyone of goodwill aspired to a colorblind society. But in the past few decades, the idea of colorblindness has come under such attack from writers and intellectuals and tastemakers that many people now believe colorblindness is the enemy. So the point of my book is to try to rescue and rehabilitate the kind of colorblindness that we should be striving towards. And by colorblindness, I don't mean we pretend to not notice race. I don't mean we pretend that race doesn't exist or anything like that. I mean, we all notice race. We're all capable of being racist. But colorblindness should mean I treat you try without regard to my race, and we all try to raise our children to not matter. And more controversially, we get race and racial discrimination of all kinds out of our public policy. So that's the point of my book.
Yeah, and you cut out just a little bit there, so I want to make sure we get this for everyone to really understand in terms of the policy. So this is not a Pollyanna approach. This is not a everyone's the same. Oneness is not sameness, and we value the differences and all of those things. But just walk us through in terms of how do we get that applied all the way to the policy level, as you were describing, so that we can actually have the better conversation.
That's right. I think, colorblindness means that we should try to get race out of our public policy. Wherever we want policies to take care of and help disadvantaged people, we should do that on the basis of class and socioeconomics, not on the basis of race.
That's great. And I think that's an important part of that. As you have people walk away from the book, give us one thing today that we ought to be thinking differently or talking differently about when it comes to race in America.
Sorry, I didn't catch that end.
What's the one thing that we should be thinking differently about or talking differently about when it comes to race in America?
Yes. So the thing, I don't see color, which is a very confusing statement because obviously everyone does see color. I treat people without regard to their race. And that's really what we should be trying to do. That's how we should be raising our children to think about race. And I think that phrase should be on people's lips when they try to convey what they believe and how they strive to treat people.
Great stuff. Coleman Hughes is a writer, podcaster, opinion columnist, specializes in issues related to race, public policy, and applied ethics. You can find Coleman's writing. It's been featured in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, National Review, and a host of others. He's appeared in Forbes 30 Under 30 list. And his new book, you should check this out. I think it's a read that is important to the right kind of conversation in the country, The End of Race Politics, Arguments for a Colorblind America. Coleman, thanks so much for joining us today. Fantastic perspective. We look forward to having you back to continue the conversation to see if we can't make a difference on this front. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Again, that's Coleman Hughes joining us, and he's got some great stuff out there. This is one of those where I heard him on one of the cable news networks making a very articulate, very powerful, not argument, but comment in terms of where we are and where we need to go. And sadly, when it comes to our conversations around race in the country, we have allowed them to become so politicized and so weaponized that we can't really have the right kind of conversation. And so this whole idea of ending race politics, I think we all ought to cheer and get on board for. But it was so fascinating to me. Coleman was a black student in philosophy on the campus of Columbia University. And there he is reading in the student newspaper, hearing from his peers in class just how racist everything was on campus. He said he felt like he was on the least racist, most progressive space on the planet. And so why was it that everyone else was thinking that race relationships were getting worse when the data suggested they were actually getting better? And a lot of that comes down to our politics, that always benefit off of division. And that's up to all of us. And as Coleman said, oneness is not sameness. We value the differences. We see those differences, but we base how we interact with each other on the content of the character. All right, that wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news, but don't go anywhere. We got a big hour number 2 coming up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, a woman from Tooele who'd been missing since last Thursday was found last night dead in her car. Police don't suspect foul play, but Colby Bentley with the Tooele Police tells us it's still an active investigation.
There's still some things that we've got to look into, doing some due diligence on our end to make sure that we're not overlooking anything.
43-year-old Karen Crawford was a married mother of 2. Both the police and family believe mental health played a role in that tragedy. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. After the recent issue of that door plug flying off an Alaska Airlines Boeing 737, Boeing is putting someone new in charge of that airliner manufacturing program. Here's ABC's Alex Stone.
Boeing announcing it's reorganizing its 737 MAX program, which has had a rough few years after the deadly crashes of grounded MAX planes for months and the recent door plug flying off. The head of commercial airplanes at Boeing saying it's working to ensure every airplane meets or exceeds all safety requirements. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average has turned a corner. It's up on the day now while the NASDAQ is still down. And our KSL weather looks like things are going to dry out for a day or two. That's next. KSL News Time 2:01.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. Everybody knows I'm a movie fan, but I have to tell you, when it comes to Fiddler on the Roof, I had never seen it before on stage. Hale Center Theater's production is spectacular, better than the movie. Absolutely loved it. And by the way, my wife, who's somewhat of an aficionado, she starred as Seidel in her performing arts college production of Fiddler on the Roof. She said, this is spectacular. You're going to love the choreography, and the staging is remarkable, and the tunes, the music is just overwhelming. It's wonderful. Plus, I've got to talk about one scene in particular. This is where Tevye brings back Grandma to convince the wife that Seidel shouldn't marry the guy she's going to marry. The use of the stage and the aerials is simply breathtaking. Don't miss Fiddler on the Roof. It's playing right now at Hale Center Theater. Pick up your season tickets, gift cards, and more. Go to hct.org.
Grab your family and some gear and head to the 2024 Skijoring the Bear exhibition in Garden City on Friday, February 23rd. Bring your skis and join the race, or attend as a spectator to watch horses pull skiers through a course with jumps. Race divisions include Open, Novice, and Rookie, with buckles and cash prizes for the division winners. Everyone can enjoy food trucks, vendors, and more. Skijoring the Bear in Garden City, just west of Heritage Park. Helmets are required for skijoring, and you need to bring your own skis. Kids 10 to 12 are free. Great lodging deals can be found at bearlake.org. Attend this exhibition event on Friday, February 23rd to see or experience the excitement of skijoring. Visit skijoringthebear.com for more information. skijoringthebear.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-530-9353. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-530-9353. That's 800-530-9353. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a crash in Draper on northbound I-15 after 146 South. It's now over to the shoulder, but it has caused a little bit of heavy and slow traffic in the area. And a lot of weather that the roads are dealing with. Plows are out on I-80 in Parley's Canyon and wet roads in the valley. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, showers continuing through the day, then we dry out. As we move toward the weekend, we'll look for more rain and possibly snow early next week. Right now, 42 degrees and cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, as we continue to move through 2024, we get closer to an important milestone in our nation's history, and that will be in 2026, when America will actually celebrate the 250th anniversary as a country. It's also been nearly 250 years since our founders declared their independence from Great Britain, fought a war to secure that independence. And so we want to look at what are the preparations underway, what's happening there, what's worth celebrating from our past, from our present, and what are we looking forward to for the future? Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
We have lots of historic milestones coming up here for this country, and in a time when there's so much negativity, there's so much chatter and clamor and division when it comes to the political side of things, that we need to get back to the principles, to the documents, to the things that set the foundation in order and should give us all hope and confidence that the best is yet to come. Someone who deals with this every day, Dr. David Bobb, President and CEO of the Bill of Rights Institute, joins us on the line. And Dr. Bobb, welcome back to the show.
Great to be with you, Boyd.
So give us some sense in terms of some of the preparations that are underway as we look at some of these big milestones coming up in our nation's history.
Well, there's a flurry of activity. One of the main organizations that's been tasked with spending U.S. taxpayer dollars is called America 250. They have set up an ambitious plan with lots of different aspects to their overall kind of project related to A250, as it's called in short. The official term, by the way, is semi-quincentennial, so you can understand why A250 is the go-to.
I think we'll go with that for sure. Yeah.
So this organization is called America 250, and there's some really fine people associated with it. But I noticed recently in visiting their website and in talking with their leadership and all that they are using a verb, commemorate. And they note that it's a time that we should pause and reflect on our nation's past. Now, when I think of those words, pausing, reflecting, commemorating, I almost wonder, like, are they saying, hey, it's been a pretty good run? You know, we've had 250 years. I look at this, Boyd, as an opportunity for America to celebrate the things that give us confidence about the future. And even as we think about our past, we're looking to this question. On July 4th, 2026, do we feel confident that we have another 250 years as a country? It's going to take going back to first principles to ensure that we do.
Yeah, I love that whole concept of those first principles, and I think it's. I'm even going to double down on that with you, Dr. Bobb, and that is that we need to celebrate, and then we need to emulate those first principles and those first Americans who were willing to stand up for those principles in ways that I think have become a little lax and a little confusing for a lot of us here in 2024.
I think you're right. Emulate is a good word. We have found in a lot of our textbooks a kind of almost embarrassment about the early days. And I think we can see it in a person like Howard Zinn, who has had a best-selling textbook even after his death that says of the founding that it was mainly guns and greed. Now, not all of our textbooks are Howard Zinn, but many of them are Howard Zinn light. And they say, rather than emulate, you ought to ignore, or you ought to even castigate, and that criticism, saying that the founding was just warts, misses the mark by a lot. Because I think what we can celebrate and what we can emulate is that there were individuals, men and women, who went out on a limb and said, we're going to start something. We're going to put its foundation in a place that never before had been the foundation of a regime, equality and liberty for all. And we're going to set that up as a standard that judges us. Are we living up to that standard? Think of that. That takes a lot of courage, right? To be able to say, we are going to put these principles in first place and really set them high, that for all of our history, we will be judged by how well we put those principles into practice.
Yeah, I think that's so vital, and I think you hit on something that's so important in this conversation, and to me this is the think again. This is not about denying things that were bad or wrong or times in our nation's history when we haven't lived up to the principles we profess to believe. I always say you have to be careful traveling back in history. It's like going to a foreign country. They do things different there. And it's easy to just poke. And while we can have a warts and all history, it's surely not a warts only history that we need to get to. And I think there was a really interesting comment recently that I read. It says, opposition is uncomplicated. Deconstruction is undemanding. And we see that a lot. Even very simple-minded people can wax pretty eloquent in scoffing at founders or founding people, as opposed to, hey, look at where we are and look at what can possibly come next. And so walk us through. You do this every day at the Bill of Rights Institute and help students and teachers and parents and people across the country have the right kind of conversation about both our history and, importantly, those principles that made it, have preserved it, and will enable it to actually move forward.
Well, I think you start with the basics and the fact that we have a birthday. Not many nations do, especially not many colonial nations do. We're throwing off a power, saying in the Declaration of Independence that this prince has become a tyrant. And in the Declaration of Independence, we stated very clearly as a country the ideals by which we wanted to live. The Constitution sought to fulfill that North Star, to be a means to fulfillment of that. Has it been perfect? No. You have to teach the whole of American history. It is a crooked line towards justice, towards liberty and justice for all. But the fact that we built into our very system a sense that we are aspiring toward a more perfect union gave people from the jump, those who were already enjoying those rights and freedoms and those who were deprived of them, a common place. We had affirmed the common right of all human beings to freedom and equality. That's a remarkable thing. No other regime in the history of the world had done that. And by doing that, we gave those who were fighting for, say, the voting rights for women, for abolition of slavery, for the achievement of civil rights. Think of those great freedom fighters who pointed back to that thing done on July 4th, 1776. They're all pointing back to those principles and saying that's what we're trying to achieve, and that's worthy of emulation.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that is the essence of it all, is that we're aspiring towards a more perfect union. We're not perfect. We're not declaring victory, because it's an ongoing effort that we all need to engage in. But we only engage in that not by just poking at the past or poking at our flaws, however they might be, but it's in coming together to figure out how do we move forward towards that more perfect union. Dr. David Bobbs, the president and CEO of the Bill of Rights Institute, one of our favorite guests on the show. Dr. Bob, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll have you back soon as we continue to celebrate and emulate those first freedoms. Thanks for joining us today.
Always great to talk, Boyd. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
Hercules Credit Union has been around since 1946, always about growing stronger together, and it's about community. One of the things that I love about Hercules First Federal Credit Union is they're about education for their members, making sure they have all the right tools so that they can chart a course with confidence when it comes to their financial future. So whether you need a mortgage, whether you're looking for a checking account, their Gold Tier Checking has everything you need in terms of ultimate in ID protection, identity theft, cellular care coverage, full-service travel, and cashback rewards benefits, all right there at Hercules First Federal Credit Union. They are the place to go because they're about community, they're about education, and you having confidence as you grow stronger together. You can find their locations in Taylorsville, Harriman, Riverton, and Salt Lake City. Or as always, you can find them online at HerculesCU.com. That's HerculesCU.com.
The last thing you want in the morning is more noise.
The day's just getting started. Maybe you're feeling a little anxious or overwhelmed, and it's not even 8 yet.
So catching up on important news stories, some sense of weather and traffic, it shouldn't be stressful.
Get a wrap on the day ahead from smart, inviting voices who know you're trying to ease in. Do you love a rainy day?
I do, actually.
I do too.
Tim and Amanda, mornings from 5 to 9. They have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Adventure awaits in an RV from a Motorsportsland RV Center. Whether you're looking for a motorhome, fifth wheel, travel trailer, toy hauler, or folding trailer, Motorsportsland has hundreds of options to choose from. Our low-pressure advisors are here to help you find the RV you've been dreaming of. Motorsportsland invites you to any of our 3 locations in Mill Creek, Salt Lake City, or Spanish Fork to see a huge selection of premium RVs to fit any camping style and budget. We've also got an incredible selection of pre-owned and clearance-priced models to choose from. When you buy from Motorsportsland, you're supporting a local, family-owned business, and you get a hassle-free buying experience without the hidden fees and high-pressure tactics of the national RV chains. Find your next adventure in an RV from a Motorsportsland RV Center, and let us help you get away.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
Motorsportsland.com.
Going to a Jazz game is more fun together. Host an unforgettable night at Delta Center with colleagues, friends, families, whoever. Group tickets are the best way to get everyone together to cheer on the Jazz. Pick from a variety of options for seating, dining, and game day experiences. Start planning your big night at the game by calling 801-355-DUMP, emailing group sales at utahjazz.com, or simply visiting utahjazz.com/tickets.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
37,000, 25, 1. These are the 3 numbers to remember to get the visibility and control you need to make the right business decisions instantly. 37,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, finance, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down expenses. 1. Because your business is one of a kind, so you get a customized solution for all of your KPIs in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need to grow, all in one place. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist, designed to give you consistently excellent performance absolutely free at netsuite.com/company. That's netsuite.com/company to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/company.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop texts, stopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a woman from Tooele who'd been missing for several days has been found dead in Salt Lake City. Second, police officers would be able to send someone for mental health treatment for a longer time under a bill now moving through the legislature. Third, Boeing is replacing the executives in charge of its 737 MAX program after a series of safety issues. Right now, 42 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. And, for many people, the healthcare field is just one of those things that you just have to sigh and ugh, and it's always just this very hard thing. And so we're always looking for what's the better solution? What's a different way? We love to be radically curious on this program, so we're always looking at what's a different way to make sure healthcare works for people? What's a way to make it accessible, affordable, all of those kinds of things? And one group that has been enhancing the best care possible for those in need is that's really the mission of the Alliance of Healthcare Sharing Ministries. It is a fascinating concept. It's been having great success around the country. And as is usually the case, when you start having success, government immediately wants to regulate or control it or to change it to fit their little system, which always seems to benefit the system rather than the people. Really pleased to have joined us in studio today. Katie Talento is the Executive Director of the Alliance of Healthcare Sharing Ministries. She's an epidemiologist, veteran healthcare policy advisor, healthcare consultant. And Katie, welcome to the state of Utah and welcome to Inside the show.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So for our listeners, give us a little bit of the backstory in terms of where did this Healthcare Sharing Ministries really come about?
Yeah, so it evolved out of small Mennonite and Anabaptist communities and started to grow around in the 80s and 90s. And then, so there were several 100,000 Americans nationwide at that time. But then the ACA exempted members of Healthcare Sharing Ministries from the ACA's burdensome individual tax mandate, and that makes us all have to buy insurance. And so that was a really important off-ramp for people who had conscientious objections to things that insurance requires, like subsidizes abortions or other things. And it also helped when the ACA started driving up insurance premiums. People were priced out of health insurance. And so this is a non-insurance model that people of similar religious beliefs come together and they share in each other's expenses and they bear one another's burdens, like in the book of Acts in the Bible.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating concept, and we love to see when these things play out. So walk us through. You mentioned it's not insurance, so it's a different animal than having your insurance card and showing up and paying a copay or whatever. So describe how it actually works in practicality.
Yeah, sure. So you go to a doctor or a hospital and you say, hi, I'm an uninsured cash pay patient. What is your discounted cash price? And they'll give it to you, and then you get your care and you get a bill and you upload that bill to the ministry's portal. The ministry then makes sure that everything there is eligible for sharing. It's not an abortion or whatever. Right. And then it assigns other ministry members to share in your bill. So if your bill is $10,000, it might assign 20, 30 people to help share that bill. And you'll get either checks from them or PayPal transfers, or the ministry will collect those and send them to you or the hospital.
Yeah, such a fascinating way to get at a problem. And again, so many people have been priced out. things that happened under the Affordable Care Act clearly have impacted so many, especially small business owners, independent workers that way have really been hit. And so you've started to have success. Give us a sense of scale in terms of how many are participating across the country, and then we'll get into how government is now eking in on that and how it's actually a first freedom. It's a freedom of religion issue as well.
That's exactly right. So there are more than 1.3 million Americans that are members of Healthcare Sharing now. And, in Utah, it's about 10,000 people here are participating in these ministries. So it's not nothing, but it's also not so large that it's some big threat to the insurance market. It's some huge competitor. It's not. We're just little Christians over here. The government doesn't need to take any notice of us.
And so, of course, government has taken notice of you. And in a lot of states across the country, the regulators have things to regulate. And so now they're coming after regulating you more as if you were an insurance company as opposed to the kind of organization that you are.
Well, they're trying to. But actually, what's been really encouraging is that more than 30 states have now adopted statutes that explicitly exempt healthcare sharing ministries from the state insurance code. And that's really important because we're already regulated under the Attorney General. And here in Utah, under the Department of Commerce, we're like any charity. We're not allowed to lie, cheat, steal. All that's illegal already. And, any attorney general can enforce those laws. We don't need to also be under the insurance bureaucracy in any state. And so those state statutes are really important. And most states in the union have already recognized that. Utah has not. It's an outlier, and it's strange given the Religious Liberty Foundation of this state. We were really surprised to see an insurance commissioner and insurance legislators, in other words, legislators on the committees that oversee insurance in the state legislature, pushing bills that would put us directly and squarely under the insurance commission bureaucracy. It's very strange. We're hoping that we can fix this bill.
Yeah, and so as you look at that, obviously, if you had to function under the rules of the insurance auspices, that creates a whole different set of that's just a different animal. It would make you what you are not. It would make you an insurance company, and so I think that's a very interesting thing. And describe for us things that would be required of you under that auspices if you're under that insurance agency, so to speak.
Yeah, so under the statute that is being, the legislation that's being considered right now, it's already passed the Utah Senate, by the way. It was jammed through very quickly. So it's now being considered in the House of Representatives, and it would require a set of financial data collection and reporting scheme that would be right to the commissioner. And if healthcare sharing ministries don't comply according to the commissioner's dictates, then we could be accused of being unlicensed insurance and sent a cease and desist order, and we'd have to shut down in Utah. So those 10,000 Utahns their solution could be in jeopardy. So that's a really big problem, obviously. We think this bill could be easily fixed to comport with the laws that are very similar to the other states. And so I don't think it's a big deal to fix this. And we know that there's going to be an amendment offered in committee tomorrow. We're very hopeful that representatives will support that amendment and fix this rather than having to kill it. That's not what we want.
Yeah, and I think it's so fascinating to look at that as a nonprofit, as a ministry, that you would be required to share all of your data and finances and all of that. We surely wouldn't ask that of a church organization or a nonprofit or another ministry of any other name or size. And so I think that's an interesting thing again, there's kind of a think again moment. Why is that happening? And so as you look at the amendment that's coming, what is it that we should be thinking about and the impact in terms of where this bill goes from here?
So I think the important thing to remember is that the federal courts have already spoken very clearly that, it doesn't matter what the state's interest is here in sort of generalized consumer protection, which is, I think, what they're trying to accomplish, although I don't think the bill would achieve that. But, that's not enough to start looking under the hood of religious organizations and churches, which is what this this would require. And courts have struck down laws in other states where that has been attempted. So I think people need to just remember the Constitution, like your previous guest was talking about.
Radical
Let's remember the First Amendment actually prohibits excessive entanglement by the government with religious organizations. And that's for a very good reason, as people in Utah know better than anyone.
Yeah, no question about it. Katie Talento is Executive Director of the Alliance of Healthcare Sharing Ministries. I think this is a crucial conversation because this is an important service. It's an important alternative in terms of healthcare. And again, some 10,000 Utahns are relying on this. And again, we shouldn't treat everything the same way. Treating a ministry as if it were an insurance company, that doesn't add up in my book, nor does requiring a ministry or a church to report things to the Insurance Agency Bureau make a whole lot of sense either. This is when you can weigh in, of course, obviously with your representatives. Will be in committee and possible amendments coming as well.
Yes, and indeed, people can go to savechristianhealthcare.org, savechristianhealthcare.org, and they can click on the Utah button and see all the information about how they can take action today.
Fantastic. Katie, thanks so much for joining us today. Great perspective, great insight. This is one of those things I know you didn't wake up thinking about today, but this is important, and not just for this particular kind of approach to getting health care and helping people bear those costs. There's a lot of things under it. This is one of those that has a lot of those unintended consequences in the way things are being jammed through that impact not only healthcare but also religious organizations. It's one we ought to think again about. So make sure you think about it and weigh in on it as well. We'll be right back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top local story this hour. A new bill getting a lot of support on Utah's Capitol Hill would increase the number of days that someone could be committed for mental health care by a police officer. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe explains.
Right now, it's 24 hours maximum, but Representative Tyler Clancy's bill would increase that to 72 hours. He says this is about looking broadly at the community needs and making sure people who just need more mental health tools aren't ending up in jail. The bill would also look at studying future needs and capacity at places like the State Hospital in Provo.
The bill passed quickly out of committee, now headed to the full House for consideration. Apple is launching a new app for sports fans. ABC's Mike Dubusky reports.
Opening day is just over a month away, and iPhone owners will soon have a new way to track balls, strikes, even betting odds. The new Apple Sports app compiles stats from across the NBA, the NHL, the Premier League, and Major League Soccer. The app is free on iPhones. Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
Now, Apple Sports does not support sports betting directly. The company says users can turn off the betting odds if they want. Your money at this moment at the end of trading today, the Dow was up 48 points, the Nasdaq down 49, the S&P was down 6 points. And our KSL weather, look for a couple of dry days before the storms come back. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
This joyful sound is the No More Chemo bell at Intermountain Health St. George Hospital. And it means that Sarah Parker beat cancer. It also means her doctor spotted it early enough to treat, and that her oncologist helped her fight it every step of the way. It means that her nurse helped her keep track of medicines, and that a case manager made the whole experience just a little bit easier. Every time we hear that bell, it reminds us that all things are possible when we work together. It reminds us of the power of we. Intermountain Health.
Do you enjoy fishing, hunting, or just soaking in the beautiful outdoors? Then you need to check out the KSL Outdoors Show, airing Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and midnight on KSL 5 TV. Outdoors with Me, Adam Eagle, is a unique show that takes viewers on a journey through Utah's beautiful backcountry. Watch it live every weekend or find the Outdoor Show on YouTube, KSLOutdoors.com, Facebook, and Instagram. It's the KSL Outdoors Show, brought to you by Camp Chef.
Senate Bill 210 is a medical emergency at the Utah Legislature. Ophthalmologists and optometrists are not the same. Optometrists don't complete medical school, no hospital internship, and no surgical residency. Ophthalmologists are medical doctors with years of surgical training on real patients. Now, optometrists want to perform surgery using lasers on the only eyes you'll ever have. Optometrists are not medical doctors, yet they want Senate Bill 210 to suddenly make them surgeons. Does that make sense to you? Your state legislator can help stop this nonsense by voting no. It takes years of training to make a surgeon. No bill can ever change that. Your legislator can help stop this nonsense. Tell your legislator to keep Utah eyes safe.
Paid for by the Utah Ophthalmology Society.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have delays on I-15 in Utah County. This is on the northbound side, and I believe it's due to what may have been a rollover crash going from Santaquin to Spring Lake, and I can see some flashing lights, so emergency crews are arriving on the scene, but we do have backups in that area. Advanced Window Products, $2,500 off 10 windows or more. AdvancedWindows.com. Affordable windows guaranteed. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, showers continuing through the day, then we dry out toward the weekend. Look for more rain and possibly snow early next week. Right now, 41 degrees with light rain in Salt Lake. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, within the Biden administration's SAVE plan, it's been making a lot of headlines since President Biden introduced it last year with the promise to make an honest dent in student loan debt. Again, there's been various versions of how he was going to do that, several struck down by the Supreme Court. Then they found out a way to do it by rule through some of the agency. Nearly $138 billion has been doled out in the name of loan forgiveness. And tomorrow, he's going to take a page out of the demigod in Moana from Disney, and he's going to send out emails saying, "You're welcome." We're going to talk about that as a strategy, what that actually means in all of this. Michael Stratford, of course, is from Politico, education reporter, and Michael has a great piece on this today. And Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So let's dig into this. Let's start just with the bill itself, the process, and what has actually gone through, how many people have been impacted, how has the president gone about this particular version of providing some relief on the student loan front?
Yeah, that's right. There are a lot of moving pieces here. A lot of people are familiar with what the president announced more than a year ago, nearly 2 years ago now, the big $400 billion effort that would have applied to 90% of student loan borrowers to chop off $10,000 or $20,000 from their debt. Supreme Court said absolutely not to that, to conservatism. The Supreme Court struck it down. And since then, the administration has been working on various programs and individual actions to deliver the relief that they've promised to borrowers. So what the administration did today was announce a first bucket of loan forgiveness for borrowers who are enrolled in their new loan repayment program. It's a variation, a more generous variation of what the federal government has offered for a long time, which are income-driven repayment programs. But under the Biden plan, borrowers have an easier path to getting their loans forgiven sooner, and they also face lower monthly payments than they did before.
Okay, and so talk to us in terms of how many specific students is this impacting, and what is kind of the step process in terms of what they've done now, and is this something that they're going to continue to do and roll out over the course of the year?
They're absolutely going to continue doing it. The president just finished speaking, announcing this plan in Los Angeles a few minutes ago, and he said he's committed to continuing to announce buckets of student loan relief. And as you mentioned, he's going to be sending emails to make sure people know who to thank for that. But what the administration, the number of people affected in today's action is about 153,000 borrowers. And now that's just a fraction of the 45 million Americans across the country who have student loan debt. But that number is going to keep going up through these sort of monthly or every other month announcements by the administration of borrowers as they qualify for relief. And then sort of on a separate track, the administration is looking at ways to come up with what is effectively a replacement program that will cover vast numbers of people to take the place of the program that the Supreme Court struck down last summer.
So fascinating. So let's get to the communication strategy and the politics of it all. You mentioned that he's sending out your welcome emails. Any sense of what's going to be in those? Will there be The Rock Johnson singing the Your Welcome song, or how are they going about this?
Well, we do have a copy of the email. The White House provided that.
No
to
singing.
Us. So it's not a secret. There's no singing. It's a seal of the president. It says a message from President Biden. The first word is congratulations, and I'm paraphrasing now, but it's effectively thanks to the policies of my administration. You now have student debt relief, and it's signed by the president at the end of the email.
All right. And so kind of walk us through that next phase in terms of the buckets. You talked about the context of the 7.3 million who are currently enrolled in the SAVE plan. I'm assuming all of them, so it's about 153,000 you mentioned that are in this first bucket. How does that look to progress forward? And then you mentioned there's a much larger number that own some sort of student debt. Any kind of sense in terms of how they're going to go about whacking at some of those?
Yeah, so those 7.5 million people who are already in the SAVE plan are benefiting from lower monthly payments, and as they hit their milestones, having made payments for a certain amount of time, as few as 12 years, up to 25 years, depending on the type of loan they have and how much they took out and whether they went to graduate school or just went to undergrad. That relief will continue as those borrowers become eligible. Separate from that, the administration, we don't know the number of people who will be affected, but they are creating broad categories of borrowers who will be eligible for their forthcoming program that we should see at some point later this year. And that includes borrowers whose debt balances have ballooned from their original amount because of interest, borrowers who went to what the Education Department deems low quality college programs, and most interestingly, the administration last week said they're building a category for hardship, and they have dozens of factors that they say will indicate whether a borrower is likely to be unable to pay on their debt based on income, based on the balance, and that they'll provide some relief to those borrowers as well. But we just sort of know the broad contours of those plans, not the number of people who will be affected.
Yeah. And then just in your reporting, you did such a great job of laying out all the different numbers and the different buckets and those who could be eligible or would be eligible. What is the pushback? Is there any pushback at all? Again, election year, it's always hard to push back on getting dollars to people. Anything in terms of how this is impacting everything from national debt to deficit spending to cost of education in general? Any sense in terms of where that discussion might be going in this process?
Yeah, well, Republicans have made no secret that they are opposed to the various student debt relief policies that the administration has been pursuing, both that big plan that was struck down by the Supreme Court and these subsequent actions to sort of find ways around that ruling. Republicans have voted in Congress to block the plan. Those efforts either haven't made it through the Democratic-controlled Senate, or in other cases were vetoed by the president. But they argue that these are unfair policies that affect, or basically subsidizing people who don't need the subsidy, or who chose to attend college and took on this debt willingly. And they argue and point out that these programs are expensive to federal taxpayers. It costs the government hundreds of billions of dollars to forgive this debt.
Yeah, great perspective, great insight on all of this. Michael Stratford, of course, education reporter for Politico. Check out his piece at Politico.com today. Great stuff. Michael, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you. Thanks.
All right. Again, that's Michael Stratford, education reporter for Politico. And so interesting. Again, obviously, in an election year, the cynical component can be, well, that seems to be a good thing for a lot of those younger voters who may be on those kind of plans or in need of that kind of debt relief. Also interesting that the White House has felt like they need to get the "You're Welcome" email out there to those folks. We always like to say, if you have to declare it, you're not it. But it's an interesting thing, and it's one of those things that many on the Democratic side have said, look, Mr. President, you got to take credit when you get some of these things through that benefit some of these American voters. And clearly the White House is taking notice of that, and they're saying, you're welcome. So if you got a little student loan forgiveness in your future, you probably get an email from the president under the seal of the President of the United States that says just that. You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
KSL and the Movie Show will be at My Hearing Centers this Friday from 10 to 1. My Hearing Centers change lives through better hearing. Visit myhearingcenters.com.
If you've ever experienced running out of hot water before your shower was done or hard water spots on dishes and fixtures, I've got a deal you might be interested in. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and you probably already know that a tankless water heater and a water softener solve both issues. If you've ever thought about looking into getting a tankless water heater, here's the deal I was talking about. Through the end of February, we're including a free water softener with every new tankless water heater we install. The best part of this deal might be that you never have to worry about being the last one to the shower again, or that you don't have to waste the money keeping 40 to 50 gallons of water hot 24/7. To take advantage of this deal, call Any Hour Services before the end of February. The visit's free and there's no obligation to buy. If you decide to have us install a new tankless water heater, we'll throw in the water softener for free. That's right, a free water softener when you purchase a tankless water heater. Pick up the phone and call Any Hour Services right now for all the details. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Well, you've heard me talking about it for a couple of weeks now, but I hit my soda weight loss goal, and I actually went a little bit beyond it. I aimed for 65, and I lost almost 70 pounds in 5 months. So soda's done with me, right? Not on your life. This is where soda really starts to add value to their weight loss program. Soda stands for state-of-the-art, and listen to this. They're not letting go of me. In fact, their goal is to help me keep it off now for the rest of my life. So I get to continue to meet with my nutritionist, Kristen, and they're teaching me how to keep going as I re-add the foods that I've been avoiding during the weight loss portion. I mean, there's a reason that Soda is the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and client results. Check out the proof. You can just look at me, or you can go to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com, and check out the 8,500 plus 5-star reviews. I look good, I feel good, and that's thanks to Soda Weight Loss. Soda Weight Loss is, say it with me, state of the art.
With your choice of select sandwich, nugs, fries, and a drink, Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag is your go-to. Your nugget wingman. Your hot and crispy fry co-pilot.
Just like us. We're like the bag boys.
What?
Bag boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when we bring your food?
For a deal you can count on, bet on Biggie and choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
Bag boys, bag boys.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Includes choice of JVC or crispy chicken sandwich with 4-piece nugs, junior fry, and small soft drink. Third-party delivery pricing may be higher.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
There are two amazing productions, very different productions, on the stages right now at Hale Center Theater. One is Clue, that I thoroughly enjoyed. It is a madcap comedy, and as I mentioned, it has the greatest death scene I have ever seen on the stage. Then down the hall in the theater in the round, it's Fiddler on the Roof. It is breathtaking. You are going to love both productions that are underway right now at Hale Center Theater, but there's so much more to come. May We All, a country musical, is coming up next. Then The Time Machine, The Nutty Professor, The Addams Family, which is wonderful, and The Magician's Elephant Plus. The season wraps up just before the Christmas production of A Christmas Carol, Disney's Beauty and the Beast. Get your tickets now. Go to hct.org. And be sure to pick up gift cards, too. They're perfect just to slip in a thank you card. Go to hct.org.
Senate Bill 210 is a medical emergency at the Utah legislature. Ophthalmologists and optometrists are not the same. Optometrists don't complete medical school, no hospital internship, and no surgical residency. Ophthalmologists are medical doctors with years of surgical training on real patients. Now, optometrists want to perform surgery using lasers on the only eyes you'll ever have. Optometrists are not medical doctors, yet they want Senate Bill 210 to suddenly make them surgeons. Does that make sense to you? Your state legislator can help stop this nonsense by voting no. It takes years of training to make a surgeon. No bill can ever change that. Your legislator can help stop this nonsense. Tell your legislator to keep Utah eyes safe.
Paid for by the Utah Ophthalmology Society.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a police officer would be able to bring someone in for mental health treatment for longer than the 24 hours permitted under current law, under a bill now moving through the legislature. Second, a pacemaker in the brain may be able to help patients with depression. And third, no need to squint at box scores in the newspaper. A new free app for Apple phones has all that sports data instantly. 41 degrees with light rain right now, and back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as it always is. I am Boyd Matheson, and as we round out the program today, I keep coming back. We just keep hearing the language over and over, that this election year is the battle for the heart and soul of the nation. And so I keep coming back to the conversations I've had over the past year or so about the soul of the nation, what it really is, what it really means, and what our responsibility is. And one of the things that's really interesting to me that I have tracked over the years is that the one thing you can't do when it comes to the soul of the nation is you can't outsource it. It has to be a we the people issue. And let me explain what I mean by that. I spent years doing international business consulting. And I came to recognize as a consultant that superior systems were good. In fact, they were crucial in many instances, but they're not enough to sustain an organization. I saw so many companies that literally spent millions and millions of dollars on outsourced operational consultants and systems experts, only to find in the end that they didn't have the right culture. They didn't have the right substance or strategy to actually have things be sustainable. And so this hyper-focus on outsourcing was creating a lot of motion, a lot of activity in these organizations, temporarily kind of being a cover or a shield about the lack of forward movement on the mission or the vision of the organization. A lot of times there were a lot of deep holes in those companies that a really good system just sort of covered up for the short term. And I'm convinced more than ever that what is true for the heart of an organization is also true for the soul of society. Outsourcing is not the answer. A friend of the show and the late Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, the chief rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregation of the Commonwealth in the United Kingdom, said on this very program that when morality is outsourced to either the market or the state, society has no substance, only systems. And systems are not enough. Think about that. When morality is outsourced to either the market or the state, society has no substance, only systems, and systems are simply not enough. And I think society has a pretty long laundry list of subcontracting units out there with all kinds of activities, all kinds of moral, ethical, and virtuous behaviors that are really vital that we have to get to. Congress is outsourcing lawmaking to the executive branch. Communities have been outsourcing caring for the poor and the needy to government agencies. Parents are outsourcing teaching morals and values to the schools. Individuals are outsourcing critical thinking to self-made social media bubbles. And many are outsourcing their own happiness to all kinds of external expectations and experts. You got all kinds of things like conflict resolution is being outsourced to the courts. Honesty is being outsourced to fact checkers. Truth is being outsourced to ideological opinion, and trust has been outsourced for so long, I think it's getting really hard to determine where it's actually gone. So here's the thing again. I think the systems of freedom are crucial. They're vital for us to safeguard. But America's constitutional republic has not been sustained solely on the basis of the system outlined in the Constitution. It's important. It has its place. I really believe that America is not a systematic achievement, though the framing, the buttress work in the Constitution is vital. But it's not a systematic achievement. It is a moral achievement. Going back to Rabbi Sacks, he said a free society is indeed a moral achievement, and it is made by us and our habits of thought, speech, and deed. Morality cannot be outsourced because it depends on each of us. Without self-restraint, without the capacity to defer the gratification of instinct, without the habits of heart and deed that we call virtues, we'll eventually lose our freedom. Now, a moral and virtuous society, as the founders believed, was necessary to sustain liberty and is dependent on we the people committing to actually be the people who safeguard the soul of society. How? Through our daily actions. So when I spoke with Rabbi Sacks about kind of the downward spiral of societal trends, moral culture, Rabbi Sacks concluded, where there's no shared morality, there is no society. Instead, and tell me if this doesn't sound familiar today, there are subgroups, and hence identity politics. In the absence of shared ideals, many conclude that the best way of campaigning is to damage your opponent by all kinds of attacks. The result of all of that, of course, is division and cynicism, and right where we began the show today, a breakdown of trust. The world gets divided into the people like us and the people not like us. And what is lost is the notion of the common good. That undermines trust. That undermines neighborhoods and congregations, charities, even entire societies. So subcontracting the soul of the nation just doesn't work. It doesn't work. We can spend mounds of money on government-driven or market-managed solutions for morality in America, and it's not going to work in the end. I thought it was interesting. Back in 1983, then President Ronald Reagan said, the struggle now going on in the world will never be decided by bombs or rockets, by armies or military might. The real crisis we face today is a spiritual one, At its root, it's a test of moral will and faith.